All right, so when we think about social media analytics, our minds usually jump to what people are saying, right? But there's another dimension that's just as crucial, where they're saying it. So let's dive into the really fascinating world of location analytics.
Okay, here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll get a solid definition of what location analytics actually is. Then, we'll look at where all this data comes from. After that, we'll explore why it matters so much, see it in action with some real-world examples, and wrap it all up with a quick summary that's perfect to help you get exam ready.
All right, first up, what is location analytics? Before we jump into the hows and whys, we've got to start with the what. Let's nail down this core concept, because understanding this is the key to everything else.
So, at its heart, it's pretty straightforward. Location analytics is all about analyzing social media data based on where users are geographically. Think about it. Every time someone tags their location on a post, a photo, or an activity, they're creating a little data point. And as analysts, our job is to connect those dots and find the meaningful patterns hidden within.
And really, the big goal here isn't just to see where people are. It's to understand how their behavior and preferences change from one region to another. This is such a critical piece of the social media analytics puzzle. Why? Because it lets organizations see how online chatter and interests are different on the ground, connecting what people do on their phones with the real physical world.
Okay, moving on to our next section. Where does all this location data actually come from? How do these platforms get this information in the first place? Let's break down the main sources.
It's not like there's just one magic source for this stuff. Social media platforms are actually pulling in location information from a few different methods, things that we as users often enable on our phones and in our apps. And each method gives a slightly different kind of data, with different levels of accuracy. First up, and this is the big one for accuracy, is the GPS in your smartphone. Pretty much every modern phone has a GPS sensor, and it gives apps incredibly precise real-time location data. We're talking accurate down to just a few meters. It's really the gold standard if you want to know exactly where someone is at a given moment.
Next, there's the IP address. Now, an IP address can give you a pretty good idea of a user's general area, like their city or country. It's definitely not as precise as GPS because it's tied to their internet provider's network, not their actual device. But for a broader regional look, it's still super useful. All right, the next couple of sources are a bit different because they're based on things users do on purpose. The first one is geotagged posts. This is when people voluntarily tag their location on their content. You see it all the time, right? Someone posts a photo on Instagram from a cool park or sends a tweet from a concert.
And right along those same lines, you've got social media check-ins. This is where someone manually says, hey, I'm here at a specific place, like a restaurant, an airport, or a festival. What's so great about both geotags and check-ins is that it's explicit, user-confirmed data. It's incredibly valuable because it doesn't just show where they are, but that they are actively engaging with that physical place.
Okay, so now we know how this data is collected. The next big question is, so what? Why does this even matter? Let's dig into why location analytics is so incredibly valuable for businesses and all kinds of organizations. Well, when you start analyzing this location data, you unlock a ton of advantages. You can start to understand how user behavior changes from place to place. You can pinpoint popular locations and hotspots. You can spot location-based trends right as they're happening. And all of this feeds into making marketing strategies way more effective and business decisions a whole lot smarter. When you boil it all down, it's really about connecting the dots between the online world and the real world. It gives organizations a much clearer picture of exactly where their customers are and, just as importantly, how their interests are different depending on where they live. That, of course, leads to much more effective, targeted ways to engage with them. All right, next section. Let's see this stuff in action. The theory is great, but what does this actually look like in the real world? Let's walk through a few practical applications.
So, a classic example you've probably even experienced is location-based marketing. Sometimes it's called geofencing. Picture this. A coffee shop can set up a virtual fence around its location. The moment you walk inside that fence, say within a block of the store, boom, a digital coupon for a discounted latte pops up on your phone. That's location analytics at work.
Another huge application is analyzing regional trends. Companies can look at all this data to see what's popular in specific cities or even neighborhoods. This helps them tailor what they offer and how they talk about it. To really make this clear, let's stick with that coffee shop idea for a second.
Okay, so imagine a coffee shop chain is sifting through Instagram posts that have location tags. They start noticing something interesting. In one specific neighborhood, a lot of people are posting about grabbing coffee in the evening. This is exactly the kind of signal an analyst looks for, a big spike in geotag data from a specific place about a specific activity.
So by digging into these posts, the coffee chain can confirm, yep, there's a real evening coffee trend happening here. And what can they do with that? Well, they could launch a new evening happy hour at their local stores, or if the trend is strong enough, they might even decide to open a brand new shop in that area to meet the demand. This is real-time market intelligence, and it is absolutely invaluable.
And it's not just for businesses. Think about big events like a music festival or even a protest. Organizers can analyze social media activity in that area to get a real-time sense of crowd behavior, sentiment, and even how people are moving around. But this is where we have to talk about a really important topic, privacy. Because location data is incredibly sensitive. I mean, it can reveal a person's exact movements and their personal habits. So it is absolutely crucial that any organization doing this is transparent. They need to get user consent, protect people's privacy by anonymizing data whenever possible, and strictly follow all data protection laws and regulations. Using this data responsibly is non-negotiable. All right, we've covered a lot of ground. So for our last section, let's pull it all together into a nice, clean summary. These are the key takeaways you'll want to have locked in for any exam. So if you're in an exam and you need that perfect one-sentence definition, here you go. Location analytics is the process of analyzing social media data based on geographical location to understand user behavior, identify regional trends, and support both location-based marketing and decision-making. That pretty much covers all the bases. And hey, to make the whole process easier to remember, I've got a little memory trick for you. It's a simple acronym that breaks down the whole flow. Just remember LADA. So what does LADA stand for? It's the 4 key steps. First, L is for location data. You have to collect it from sources like GPS and geotags. Next, A is for analyze. You analyze that data to find geographic patterns. That leads you to D, which is to discover regional trends and insights. And finally, the last A is to apply that new knowledge to your marketing strategies and your big decisions. LADA. Simple, right? And that brings me to one last thing to think about. As this location data gets more and more precise and more woven into our daily lives, how do you think that's going to reshape the way we experience our own neighborhoods and our physical world? It's a really powerful tool, and honestly, we're probably just scratching the surface of what it all means.